session and last week we tried to set the tone of the course, that what exactly are we going to discuss in this course. We discuss about the various components of internal evaluation and external evaluation, and I think we all understood that this course is not just about the HR typical HR course, that what HR people do, what HR department do, but this is more about what we in the organization can do about issues related to HR and people management. So we'll take that thing forward in today's class also. So today we are having two things in hand, right? The first thing that we are going to discuss is there was a small caselet that I uploaded on Campus 360. I hope all of you have gone through that. So we will begin our discussion through that caselet. We will try to understand few things through that small brieflet, and after that we will take up the module on strategic human resource management. So I think you all are undergoing the course on strategic management. I don't know how many classes we had, but we will try to relate few things of strategic management and human resource management and try to understand what organizations are doing. Okay, so a lot of things on our plate today. So let's quickly begin. So to start with that caselet, anyone would like to present a small summary of what that caselet was about?
Sir, may I go ahead?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, so there's one head person from head office. So they are going to different offices and talking to the supervisors. And one problem that they are facing, like they have noticed this, that there is a lot of attrition in most of the offices. And the supervisors, their energy is spent on other tasks. So training new employees every time, it's become a burden for them. So that is, I think, what I understood.
Okay, thank you, Satyapriya. Anyone else want to add something to this?
So can I go ahead?
Yes, Ajit, please go ahead.
The thing is, they have to train new employees because of the high attrition rate, and they're trying to find a way to address the problem, but they still haven't found any concrete solution.
Okay. Thank you, Ajit. Yeah, so I think the basic summary of a caselet is clear to everyone. The situation, it's not really a case, it's just a situation that we see in this caselet is basically a new person in a very high position has just joined this financial institution, and what he is seeing is that there are some issues. Especially in the branch offices related to attrition of the employees, and there are a couple of complaints that have come that people just join and we train them, and just after a few months they just leave the organization. In fact, a very vital information was given in the first paragraph itself, where we are talking about role ambiguity, that there was one lady in the organization, and when she was asked about her workload or what exactly is her role in the organization, she was not really that clear. However, her supervisor said that she is a good employee and contributes a lot, but she herself was not clear exactly what she was doing in the organization. So that is something which is very peculiar. Now, my question to you guys are two. Okay, so my first question is that when we look in these kind of organization, when we typically look at this kind of setup, right? What kind of expectations do you have from the HR department? Should we have an HR department, and what kind of role they are supposed to play, whether in head office, whether in branch offices? How do you see the HR department of this or these kind of organizations to perform? Yes, anyone?
Sir, so I think in the case, one thing was mentioned was that the hiring was taking without any communication from the head office. Directly, the supervisors was hiring. So I think once some streamlined method of hiring or something could be developed, some practices could be developed by the HR, so that attrition would be lower across the offices.
Okay. So Satyapriya is talking about the HR hiring function. So hiring function, I think what he is saying that HR should look into that from the head office, maybe that how the hirings are being made, what are the things, what are the criterias, and something look into the system of the hiring. Yes. Anyone else?
Sir, in the absence of any kind of centralized system in the head office, I think there was some asymmetry as far as the policy is concerned in different head office. So that creates a haywire kind of situation. I think that is why the attrition rate is quite high. So uh, there should be a centralized policy in terms of like hiring and retention of talent. So that should be in place, sir.
Okay, okay. So Ankit is again adding to what Satyapriya said, that there has to be some centralized system. There has to be some policies in place which looks into the hiring process and the retention of the employees, that what we need to do about that. Anyone else besides hiring and retention, what else do we HR department in such organization must do? What kind of things, what kind of function they must perform?
So they could organize some training sessions or something.
On what kind of things?
Like what exactly is the role? Detailed means a session on that. What are they expected to do? What are the expectation from them? What are the organizations are going to give them?
Okay, okay. Thank you, Himanshu. Aditya, you want to say something?
Yes, sir. So I think the HR should try to understand why the employees are leaving the organization, and that is why they should conduct some kind of an exit interview in order to really understand what is the root cause why the employees, why so many employees are leaving.
Okay, okay. So Aditya talks about the importance of exit interviews and try to understand why this particular thing is happening. Okay. Anyone else? Anything else related to HR that you comes to your mind, that why what's supposed to be done from the HR point of view? A very important thing we are missing out. Think about a business which has 22 branches, maybe spread across the if not the country, maybe across the state, which are not always connected to the head office on a day-to-day basis. On these matters, at least there must be some exchange of information, but may not be always employee related information. So what else the HR people are supposed to do? Okay, let me ask you the second question now. Okay, and this is again a very important question. So I want to ask you that do you think that in such kind of a business setup where we have a lot of branches, right, and some of these branches may be big, some of these branches may be small, you don't know, maybe there are some branches in which only 4 or 5 people are there, right, like in some small town or something like this. Do you think that what should be the setup, HR setup? Like it should be like one HR unit in the head office, or HR unit in every branch office? What kind of setup, if at all? Because we are seeing that there are some functions that HR people are supposed to do in this kind of a business. So what kind of setup do you think it's possible in this kind of a business? Like for every branch we have a HR setup, we have a centralized HR setup, or what kind of arrangement do you see is possible?
Sir, I think one HR representative would be there, like per office, so that they can communicate with the head office. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. So one HR person in every branch which can communicate with the head office. Okay, and in head office we have a proper HR setup, or no?
Yes, sir. Like the main person would be there, like the corporate would be there.
Okay,
Corporate
okay,
HR would be there.
okay. Thank you, Satyapriya. Anyone else? Any other kind of arrangement that you see is possible? So all of you agree that every branch should have a HR person.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you think it is viable? Like I told you that there might be one branch, very small branch, only 4 or 5 people are there. Do you think that it is viable that besides that 5 people or 5 persons, we would have one person dedicated to the HR function?
Sir, one thing we can do, right, as you have told, there were maybe some small branches. So we can divide the whole geography into some regional areas under which the several branches will come. And in that regional branch or regional head office, there should be a dedicated HR setup who will report to the central head office. So that thing can be done, sir.
Okay. Okay. So Ankit has slightly different approach now that, if there are smaller branches in a particular region, so for that, there is one person who is looking after all these branches and then connecting them to the head office. Okay. Any other kind of a thing, approach that anyone think in this kind of a situation? Anyone who
Sir,
is,
I feel,
yeah,
sir, I
yeah.
feel that the person who is the in charge of that small particular branch can conduct the interview and select according to the requirements of that particular branch. Because if the branch is sold, then the requirement of the people would be sold. So in such cases, we by keeping the cost effectivity in the mind, we can increase the task of that team leader or management person rather than to just hiring a new HR. And that's
Okay, okay. Thank you, Yoginder. So Yoginder talks about that, instead of this HR person, why not the senior most person in that particular branch, or one of the senior person in HR in that particular branch takes up the responsibility of that thing, and then communicate it to the head office and accordingly make decision. Okay, okay. Anyone else want to add something?
So maybe HR units can be outsourced.
Okay, so Nishant is talking about outsourcing some of the HR functions, or setting up an outsourced HR unit. That's quite possible. I think some organizations are doing it, but usually those organizations are doing it which have a considerable workforce. So we will have to check that how do we go ahead with that. And maybe for a particular region, if there are 5, 7, 10 branches, for that we have one particular agency which is taking care of. That's quite possible. For every branch separately, if we can do it or not, we'll have to see. Okay, but definitely a new suggestion, a good suggestion. Anyone else would like to give it a thought? Anyone who has an experience in working with the banking sector or something like this? No? Okay. So first of all, let me just share my views on this particular caselet. This caselet was not to find a solution. Okay, this caselet was to just give you uh, 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 food for thought that how exactly these HR things, HR related decisions are being made in organization. Because this in this caselet we have an example that this organization as a financial institution, of course, may be operating in smaller towns or maybe in villages. We don't know that. We don't have enough context, but we are assuming that it's still on a small size organization, and we are looking that total number of employees are still less than 500. Somewhere it is mentioned in the case that it is less than 500 employees now, though it has grown from maybe a single digit employee organization to this in a few years, and now we have got 20 to 23 branches in there. So it is a growing organization, but it's still on a smaller side. So how do we invest in our HR resources, right? So do we set up an HR department? How much it is required, right? If at all it is required and we have to set it up, how do we set it up when our business is so spread out? Some of the branches would be really small. Think about a small town where we know that initially we may not have that much of business, or maybe we already have an intensive competition, so we have to operate at a really lower cost. So when we look at those situations, obviously it does not make sense that we have a dedicated person who look after these things, however crucial these things are. Because so far in the case that we are only talking about hiring decisions and how people they quit their jobs after a few months, and there is lack of role clarity, but there must be other issues also, right? Why people are quitting the organization? Might be they have dispute. One hint is given that they are not clear about their role, so they are worried that what would be their future in this organization. Maybe their salaries are not good. It is not mentioned, so we don't know that. Maybe there are a lot of disputes because there is lack of role clarity, so whatever is being asked to them, they are doing it. But in the long run it would be very frustrating because they do not have a fixed job to do. They are doing everything something new every day. That is very frustrating. They might have arguments with their bosses. They might have a lot of workload which is hampering their work-life balance. So there are a number of possibilities here, right? So we cannot just simply overlook these issues as well, especially because we are a growing organization. So we need that kind of a workforce which is somewhat stable also, because these are the people who are bringing us our customers. If they are unhappy, they would lead to unhappy customers also. So we might lose a lot of customers in the process. So we don't want to do that. So we need a HR setup, but how do we do that? Because it has to be cost viable also. It should not add to a lot of cost, and in the long run, it is leading to more problem to us rather than solving them. So a typical setup, what Yogender has suggested also, which these organizations and other similar institutions like banking institutions also, they do the same thing, right? So for every branch, they cannot have a HR setup. Until unless that branch has a considerable number of customers as well as employees, they would not have a separate setup for this. But there has to be some policies in place, right? There has to be some standards that need to be followed. There has to be some guidelines, like in case of disputes, in case of problems, in case of compensation, in case of what role or job roles the person is supposed to do. There has to be some crystal clear guideline. So of course there has to be a central setup of HR in the head office. Now it does not mean that we have 10-15 employees to look after that. Maybe three to four people in the head office who are well versed, who are experienced with this particular industry as well as the HR domain. They sit together, they frame the policies from time to time. They look at the current status of what people are doing in the organization, how they are doing it, what is the need that these people are having, or change in their needs that these people are having, and accordingly they redraft the policies and guidelines and circulate them across the branches. That is one central role that these people will do. The other thing that branches have to be is exactly what Yogender is saying. We cannot afford to hire a specialist, HR specialist in each of these branches, right? So somebody has to take this responsibility. This is what I was talking about in the last class also. So the lines between HR department and line managers is now a blurred line, right? It's not really black and white kind of a area that, you know, these are the things that HR are supposed to do, so only HR will do in the organization, and these are the things that line managers are supposed to do, so only line managers will do. The line has blurred. Now they are interchangeably taking responsibilities of each other. So like what Yogender has suggested, so there has to be, in every branch, there has to be one person who may not take every HR related decision on his or her own, right? But using the guidelines, by using the policies which are in place, he or she should be able to take some decisions and sort out some day-to-day problems related to the employees, and the remaining things which he or she does not have enough clarity or doesn't maybe want to get involved, should be able to communicate those things to the head office so that they could take that matter forward, like some kind of a dispute, some kind of a grievance redressal, sometimes you know, decisions related to promotion and everything. So localized hiring can be made, and it should be made, because you know there are a lot of factors to be considered: local language, their connections, their understanding of local customer needs, and things like that. So localized hiring has to be the way, but it should not be a very you know, abrupt kind of a hiring or something which lacked clarity. So there has to be standard guidelines, rules, regulations which has to come. So that has to be centralized, and that has to be there. So obviously centralized HR system in this kind of organization with some support from the branches in form from the line managers rather than a specialized HR manager. Another possibility is that when this business is growing and every branch is now not really a tiny branch, and there are at least 15-20 people in every branch. So other possibility is what we have just heard, that you know, maybe we can outsource certain things to the agencies, like maybe their hiring process is being outsourced to certain agencies. So they would shortlist the candidates, they would arrange the interviews for them by utilizing the line managers, and then place them and onboard them into these branches. That is one thing that can be do. Or we can also have like a shared responsibility. So this region, there are 5 to 7 branches. Every branch has 10, 15, 20 employees. So for this particular region, there is one regional HR manager or something like this. A post is created which is sitting in the biggest branch over there, or the branch which is well connected to the head office, and all those regional requirements and all those things this person or this team of people is taking care of. That also is possible, but that is only possible when these branches grew to a certain extent. So through this case study, we have basically addressed two things. The first thing is that line managers and HR managers, they are interchanging their roles. They are sharing this responsibility now, which I was trying to make a point in the last class. Well, second thing is that when we look at these kind of decisions, seems like a very small decisions, like in the overall scheme of the business decisions that we are taking, a very small part of it. But the thing is that it has got some strategic relevance, right? So in a financial institution where customer is the key and we require more number of customers than our competitor to sustain in the market, employees plays a very important role because their connection, their connectedness with the customers sometimes come because they have some kind of a trust, comfortable with the employees. It's a very important factor. So if these people are leaving the organization in a short span of time, so are your customers. They are facing that, okay, that person left maybe because something is wrong with this organization. Maybe he was not comfortable with it, or he made so many promises to me, but now he is gone. So should I continue with this organization? So these kind of things becomes a very important thing, especially in smaller cities in India, right? Because there the trust factor plays a very important role. So you don't want to be in that situation. So however, it seems like a HR decision, it has a lot of strategic relevance to the organization, so you cannot ignore it. And that is why the strategic human resource management is taken as a very serious kind of a field now in organization. So earlier when we used to think that that human resource management is more that kind of a domain which is more like administrative domain, it plays a very little role in how the business is going to perform or grow. That notion has changed now. So this plays a very important role today, and that is what the basis of strategic human resource management is. So let me just put on my slides and talk a little bit more about strategic human resource management today. But before that, any questions related to that? Something you want to make a point or you want to ask about this? Okay, great. So let me just quickly. I hope the slides are visible. Can anyone please confirm?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So today we are going to talk about human resource management strategy and analysis. So there are two things. One part is obviously the strategic management. So I'm assuming that since you are studying that course in this trimester, maybe you already have few classes or you are currently having those classes now. So I'm not going to go in too much detail of what strategic management is, what strategy is. I'm assuming that you already know or you are going to study that in detail. So I'll try to confine my discussion related to more about HR issues. And second thing is that let's not forget that strategic human resource management as a separate elective also we are going to study. So I'm going to cover the major part, the holistic part of that particular domain, but I'll not try to get into too much of details because I don't want to stretch too much into that subject, and then when you go to that subject things got repetitive. So I'll try to create a balance in that, but feel free to ask as many questions as you want to. If in between you feel that something is being missed or something needs to be clarified or something like that, so ask as many questions as possible and I'll try to maintain that balance in between. Okay, so talking about strategic human resource management, to start with, let me just spend a couple of minutes in trying to give you that what is the school of thought here. So David Ulrich is one of the key HR managers, thinker of our times. He's still there. He's giving a lot of concepts, especially after the pandemic has stepped in. But I'll try to talk about how he has defined that, how the HR thinking has evolved over time. So some part of it we have already established that there was a time when HR was thought of more like an administrative function, that they are doing the record keeping, they are keeping the record, they are maintaining that people are getting salaries on time, and maintaining whatever compliance is needed from the organization. But since then we have moved to the next step. So with time we have moved to the next step and we start talking about some standardized HR practices, right? So how the hiring should be made, what are the things that we should consider when we are hiring people, how should we check their skills. There are some scientific tests that we start involving, right? After the hiring we talk about their training and development. So when they are moved into the organization, there are certain standard training practices that we brought in, so that all of them are able to utilize their skills in the same manner. They are able to maintain the processes that are being set up in the organization, things like that. So standard HR practices, compensation, training and development, their performance measurement, things like that, that comes into play. So HR started involving themselves more into organization when we stepped into this second stage. All the organization also do in the same manner, like the caselet that we were just discussing. So initially they did not have any HR system. Then this person starts seeing that, okay, there is role ambiguity, there is a attrition rate. So, we have to do a little bit more than administrative duties, right? So obviously they were hiring people. Obviously they were giving them some kind of salary. Obviously they might be giving them promotion from time to time. So, but they were more of like administrative duties that from time to time, 3 years have passed. So now the person is eligible for next promotion. So until unless he is doing his job really bad, he will be given that promotion or she will be given that promotion. But now we will bring in HR practices. So we will first see that who is performing their job really well. So irrespective of the tenure, we will give the promotion to that person. Right. So HR practices then brought in some kind of rationality, more involvement of HR into organization. Now most of the organization are into the third phase, where we have moved one step beyond the HR practices also. So practices are there, standard practices we have adopted, but we can do even more. Like we can involved in the strategy making process of the organization, right? So if it's not thus that we have to give promotion to the most eligible person, but we also have to see that in what stage our organization is. Maybe our organization is really struggling in the this thing in the industry or in the market, right? We are not really making that much of profit, or we need that money to invest back into the business so that we can compete with our with the other players in the industry. So at that point of time, giving promotion, handing over promotions, giving more salary benefit to employees does not make sense. It is time to convince them that for some time we have to withhold these efforts so that we can be a market player. And once we are market player, we can extend actually more benefit than we would actually gain at that point of time. So that is a strategic move. And that is something that HR department alone can do. Senior management, if they would talk about these things, people will not understand. They would feel that there is something fishy going on. They don't want to give us money. They don't want to give us promotion. They just want to earn all these things for themselves. Right? They would not understand. But if the HR is involved, they rationalize this thing. They can show them the clear picture. Then the people will have more confidence that okay, this is not coming from my boss. This is coming from a strategy making decision body, right? Why we are doing this, how we are doing this. Sometimes we are, instead of doing that, we are giving them more stocks. That okay, instead of promotion, why don't you consider these stocks? As we will grow, the value of these stocks will grow and you will earn much more than what you will earn through a promotion. So all these kind of decisions are where the requirement of HR department is very much necessary, because senior management can't do that alone. And sometimes senior management does not have that kind of a vision also, because they are more focusing on business side. They are more focusing on the market side. They are not able to understand each and everything which is going on inside the organization, right? Like your father, when he's going to job and he's earning money, when he's making some investment, he does not always understand that in the family, my kids are asking for a new bike or things like that. What the father might be thinking is that if I invest this money in some mutual fund, it will grow in 5 years and then I can send my son to US for higher study. So his thinking is slightly different than what you are thinking. But all the time, if the kids go to their father and they ask for a bike and the father says no, they feel bad, right? They feel that okay, my father doesn't love me or he doesn't care or things like that. But at the same time, if your mother explains you that why is he doing it, the chance of understanding increases slightly little bit more, right? So this is the role kind of HR now playing. This is just one example. There are other ways also in which HR contributes some more. Like in the next class, we will discuss it in form of a case study that how an HR department plays a very important role in that situation. So we'll discuss in that. But I think you got an idea that what HR strategy is doing in that case, right? And then the next phase, the final phase, is outside in approach, in which I think currently less than 1% of the global organization are actually there in that particular space. What does outside in approach says It says that we as an HR department are not just thinking about the organization anymore, right? We are not just thinking about the strategy of an organization anymore, but we have make it specific for every stakeholder who is involved in with the organization, be it the promoter, be it the employees, be it the senior management, be it the suppliers, be it the customers which are associated with us. So that is the ultimate level of HR involvement that we can think of at the present, and less than 1% organization in the world is actually in that space, right? So it will take some time, and that can only happen when HR as a strategy function is fully aligned with the organization. So we will not get into so much of detail in this particular course. We don't have to, because we are not really HR professionals, all of us here. And people who are interested in HR, they have picked up the electives. They would have a chance to explore that particular thing in those electives, right? But we'll talk about the third stage to some extent in this module, and I'll introduce about the HR strategies. And people who have opted for a strategic human resource management would get an opportunity to explore those things in even more detail when they would take up this course. But I try to create a balance and ask as many questions as you can, so that would be helpful, right? So to start with, let me ask you this one simple question. Okay, this is a very simple situation, right? A company is making a decision for a coming financial year. Okay, the company, let's have some assumptions, is making two products, product A and product B, and these are two unrelated products. Okay, so they are not dependent on each other for raw material or any other this thing, right? So these are two unrelated products. For product A, this is the current status. So whatever we are producing, we are not able to sell it 100%. So we are selling less than what we are producing. For product B, as soon as we produce it, it is almost sold out, right? So if we are producing 100 units, 99 units sold almost instantaneous. So these are the two products, and these are the only two products we are making. This is the assumption. These are unrelated products, and the company is making some kind of a decision for the coming year. Not next 5 years, not next 10 years, only for the next year. So if you are a decision maker in this organization, let's say CEO or anyone, though there would be multiple decision maker, but we are assuming that you are the decision maker, what would be your immediate step in this year? What would you like to do? This is the situation. You can assume your own thing, that okay, these are the resources, these are the things, whatever. You can have your assumption. What would be your immediate decision for this 1 year, this next year? Anyone?
Sir, for product one, uh,
Yeah, go ahead.
so sir, like it is selling less than it is produced. So we'll find out why that is happening. Like maybe it's not reaching to the customers. Like whatever, if like why are customers not buying when we are producing it?
Okay, okay. What else would you do? Anyone else? Yes, Aditya.
Yes, sir. So I will try to increase the production of the product B, which is selling more, and I will try to lessen the resources that is being utilized in product A and shift it to product B, and therefore the production of A will get reduced, and I will focus more onto the product B.
Okay, excellent response. Anyone else? Okay, let me make this situation a little bit more complicated now. Okay, what if both the production lines, product A and product B, the investment was very capital intensive? Let's say crores of rupees went into setting up the manufacturing unit for both product A and product B. Would you change your decision a little now? Anyone?
So can you repeat?
So Aditya, the situation, I am just adding one more condition to this situation. So you said that product A and product B, I try to reduce the production of product A, will try to increase the production of production B. Now I'm just adding one more layer to your decision making. So what if this particular business where you are making these two products is very capital intensive business. Okay, so when you set up the manufacturing unit separately from product A and product B, crores and crores of rupees went into setting up that manufacturing unit. Would you change your decision making a little, or you would stick with the same decision that I'll try to increase the production of product B and try to reduce the production of product?
So if the what just said, if I will try to shift the resources, if it is not possible to shift the resources from product A to product B, then I'll try to find out the reasons why the product A is not selling, and try to make some improvisations in the product A, so that it becomes more attractive to the customer.
Okay, okay. Anyone else?
Sir,
Sir,
maybe
first,
Yeah,
sir,
Ankit.
yes, sir. So, sir, if the product is not working, first I will look after the historical trend, like if it was all low all the time or it is a recent phenomenon. If it is a historical trend that I was always selling less than what I am producing, and as you have mentioned that it was a capital intensive project, then I will be exploring the option of divestment, that I will be selling the unit totally business.
Okay, okay. Yes, Satyapriya, you want to add something?
sir, like product A is selling less, so I will try to increase the marketing budget for product A so that its selling is more than product B. So we can do that also.
Okay, okay. What if I add one more layer to this, right? So both the products, they were very capital intensive, and now I'm adding one more condition is that, product A, you made this investment, you started manufacturing product A, let's say 25 years back. Okay, so this has been there for 25 years, and product B, you have started just 4 years back. Would you change your decision a little bit now? Any one of you?
Sir, as the business has been started 25 years back, so I am assuming that the product has reached its mature state or in declining stage. So there are two options for me. Either I have to add some value to the product, or I have to sell the business unit altogether. That is to kill the product.
Okay, okay. One last condition that I'm adding, right? Let's see that if we change some decisions here. So the last situation, the last condition is that the role is reversed, right? For this year, let's assume that product B is not selling much, and product A is selling more. Okay, and product A has been there for last 25 years, and product B just maybe last 4 years. Would you change your decision? Any one of you? So product B is selling less, product A is selling more, product A has been there for 35 years or 25 years, and product B just 3-4 years. And both are capital intensive. Any change in efforts?
Sir, product B has started like for 2 or 3 years, so it will take time to catch up. So I think we need to invest more so that it will reach the required level of selling point and something like that, sir.
Okay, okay. Anyone else? Great. So we saw 3-4 different kind of decision making activities for these situations. If we get more and more details, our decision making keep on changing, right? And obviously, if we look at the long term, the decision making has to be a little bit more stable, right? However, the decision making is we were only talking about business decisions. We were only talking about decisions related to our operations. We have not discussed anything related to human resources so far. Now let's try to include the human resources part. Okay, so situation number one. Okay, product A, we want to reduce the production, product B, we want to increase the production. What are the human resource related decisions that we will have to make in this case? Now anyone might try to answer it, but let me set you some these things background to it. Okay, so product A and product B, I already said that these are two unrelated products, right? So having said that, it may not always be easy to shift your workforce from product A to product B so easily, right? They might be working on different technology, they might be two completely different industries where these products belong to, right? Maybe product A is more like a traditional product, like maybe textile, steel, this kind of thing. Product B is more like technology driven. We are probably making some kind of chips and maybe some other hardware for computers or maybe automobile sector or something like this. So these are two different industries. So how do we make these HR decisions? Can you think of 2-3 moves that you will take in next 1 year if we have to reduce the production of product A and increase the production for product B, only from the HR point of view? Anyone? Should we start firing people from product A?
So maybe we need to scale accordingly or something like that.
Okay, let's say that though unrelated products, we see that we somehow we can train our employees and we can skill them, right? So that over the time we can move this workforce, if not 100%, to some extent, to product B. Okay, that is one of the options. Do you agree? Okay, now what if one of this manufacturing unit was based in Karnataka and the next one is the second one is based in West Bengal? What would happen then? Would skilling alone will help?
These people are like, are they like migrant workers?
Might be to some extent. Like in West Bengal unit, mostly
shift at least few of the skilled, highly skilled people, and rest of them maybe we need to do some kind of we need to get them newer work, or I heard in Germany they reduce the salary by half, or like that they do, or else in like America, if our labor laws are strong, we can remove them.
Okay. So one few new options have come up. So instead of just reskilling them, we can half their salary and see how the business is going, and meanwhile relocate few of them who are willing, right? And maybe depending upon the labor laws, if we want to fire, we can fire them also. Like, but firing is not so easy in India, of course, we know that, right? So if we are firing few people here and there based on their performance, that is justifiable. But if you are firing in lot, a lot of problems, right? Especially because we are talking about manufacturing, so labor unions, local politicians, local labor laws, a lot of things would come into play, right? So not so easy, right? What else we can do beside this?
Sir, for product B, we can change the wage structure, like incentivizing them based on the production unit they have to do.
Why only for product B? Why not for product A?
But sir, that will increase the production with product A. People would be incentivized to produce more rather than.
So first of all, what kind of for what class of workers are you putting incentives? Are you putting incentives for the blue collar employees, the semi-skilled and unskilled employees, or you are putting up incentive for the skilled employees? What are you trying to do? Because that also needs to be addressed. Maybe you can put up incentives to sell them more, right? To your marketing guys, right? Or product development thing. Maybe you can find out ways of utilizing this product in various ways. Instead of just selling the steel sheets, you can use those sheets to manufacture something and then sell some other products of it, right? So there are various ways of incentivizing it, but I got your idea. Your intent is right, but if we have to incentivize, we can incentivize for both the product. That is my this thing. Yes, anyone else want to add something?
So we can hire more workforce for product B, and also shift some of the workers from product A to product B who are willing to transfer.
Okay, yes, and that's the important point, that who are willing to do that, right? Because we have established that the manufacturing units are very far from each other, right? Even from for skilled labor, like we forget about the the labor part, if we look at the managers part, not everyone would be willing to move to Karnataka or West Bengal or things like that. I mean, maybe they are not comfortable with the language, with the culture. So all those issues are also there. So little bit more complexity is there, right? So just relocation, or because you are willing to reskill them, that probably may not work, right? What else? Anything else? What about
Sir,
the compensation part? Yeah. Yes, Yogendra.
Sir, I want to ask one question. Like you said, once we start firing, then these different intermediaries can come, labor laws and commission, all kind of things. But in the practical life, what we usually see, like some of the tycoons like Ratan Tata, except these tycoons who believe in humankind, rest of organizations used to fire whenever they require something. And if even they do not fire directly, they start making such conditions, restrictions at the employment that people will get a lot of pressure on the job, and somehow they get frustrated and they start quitting the job. Means organization are making them to quit the job rather than directly firing them. So then at that time, where these intermediaries, labor law commissions go, and whom to
So
contact and what to do.
okay, so you are absolutely right. There have been cases like this also, that where suddenly organization will fire hundreds and hundreds of people, and despite everything, these people cannot do much, right? So although that is if I go into detail, it will probably take so much of time, but to give you an understanding that even the organizations, I'm not talking about organization which was set up, let's say 25 years, 30 years back, right? For those organizations, mitigating these kind of issues is not so easy, because everything is been there is a very strong setup now, right? For labor unions also, there is a unity between employees also. They understand the system inside out. They are connected to the local authorities also well. So at plus they have a reputation to maintain also, right? So they can't really do much in one go. You never hear such things from like groups like Aditya Birla, Reliance, Tata, for that say. Maruti Suzuki, there was one uprising a few years back, if you remember, in the Gurgaon plant, but that also highlighted like anything. So it was not so easy for them to actually make those decisions. Yeah, so most of the decisions there, most of the things that these kind of things that we hear today is basically happening with those organizations which are like which have been established in last 15-20 years, or which have really grown in last 15-20 years. So initially they were not much of the employees, but in last 15-20 years they have grown like anything, and sometimes they struggle, or sometimes they change their business strategy, or sometimes they switch from one kind of a business to another kind of a business, and that is when they are making such decisions, right? So first of all, mostly what these organizations, basically they are doing two things. First of all, they are starting with a contract. So when the people are starting their jobs, it is clearly stated that what are the terms and conditions of their jobs, and whether they pay attention to it at that point of not, but later on legally organizations are much more in a better comfortable position to make such harsh decisions if they want to. Obviously they have to justify certain things. It's not that they can get away with everything, but yes, there is a possibility, because legally now they are in a better position to justify those kind of things. The second thing what is happening with a lot of organization today is that as far as their unskilled, semi-skilled workforce is concerned, they are getting this workforce on contractual basis, and they are not even doing it themselves, right? So there are agents in between, there are other agencies in between which are doing it on their behalf. So if when we hear such news that this company has fired more than 200 250 people, and have asked them not to come to work from next week or something like this, basically they are not doing it themselves. There is an agency in between which is in contract with those workers, so every risk and everything is also associated with that agency. They're working with this bigger organization, but they are not on roll with this organization. So that saves them a lot of headache, right? Because directly there was no contract in place between the employee and this employer, right? There is a one particular entity in between. So whatever risk and whatever headache is there, if headache is the right word to use here, and that is being borne by the middle agency. That almost all the MNCs today that we see, they are operating in the same manner, and some of them are doing it not just for semi-skilled and skilled workforce, but also for their highly skilled workforce also. They are doing the same, like companies like IBM, or if you remember a case a couple of years back of Apple, what was going on, or any tech company that you see today, they are also doing the same thing, right? So why they are doing it? To safeguard themselves from these kind of issues only, and that is why they are getting away with that very easily. I would not say easily, but conveniently, right? So the bottom line here is that though there are strict labor laws, there are unions, sometimes these organizations do not let them form in that way that they would be in a trouble. I would not say that they always do it because there is some kind of a malice in their heart and they want to do that. It's not like that, but of course every business, they when they come into this thing, they know that there are ups and downs, and they might be in a position where they would have to make hard decisions. So if there is a way out there where if they are in that position they can do that, they will do that. And over the time, to be honest, most organizations understand this one thing, that it's not that the firing will cost them much. It's just that if they fire someone, and and then they realize that they need those people, it's going to even cost them even higher, right? So it's not that every organization, they just want to fire people because now the profits are less, so let's fire them. So that's not always the intention. I'm not talking about those companies which are operating at a very low scale, which are more localized rather than nationalized or global. For them, the case may be different, but all the organizations which are well settled, that we are looking up to, or from where we want to work upon, they never think like this. They don't think that we are hiring these people, so after 5 years, when they would demand much, we will just fire them or something like this. That's never an intention. If they want to do the talent management, they want to make sure that the right kind of people always stay in the organization. And of course, it is very competitive world. So if you're not performing, obviously you would always be at risk of being disposed of. That is true for all parts of life, not just the organizations that we work for. So that is there. But that's not always that we should focus on. I would say rather that this would happen here and there with few organizations. But yes, there are ways in which they get away with that. But they are also doing this because when they look at the bigger scheme of things, sometimes you have to safeguard these kind of interest also, because if for few employees we would try to stick to or fall into that kind of a pressure that we cannot fire them and this and that, ultimately the business would bankrupt. May not be this year, maybe in coming years. So it would affect everyone. So that's how they go for it.
Thank you, sir.
I hope I answered. Right. So coming back to the original discussion quickly. So like we have established this thing that there are so many options we might take in this matter, and every option has some few things which seems easy and few things which seems very complicated, and most of the complicated things are associated with our human resources, to be honest. Because business decisions, we know that either we have those resources or we don't have those resources, or if we don't have those resources, whether we have a mean to achieve those resources or do not attain those resources. But as far as human resources are concerned, they are very crucial, as well as it is very difficult to always have a very black and white kind of a solution for them, right? So product A to product B, we know that we have to increase the production of product B, but do we have enough human resources to invest in for the product B? And what do we do with the human resources of product A? Shall we fire them? What if this product A, which is not performing well, it is because the entire industry is not performing well at the moment, but couple of years later it will bounce back. So what should we do for these couple of years? Should we stick to these human resources because they have been working for us maybe for last 20-25 years? Or should we let them go because it is making huge losses for us and we may not even survive those 2 years? So it's a very crucial kind of a decision, and it's a very tricky kind of a situation. And that is where the role of strategic human resource management becomes very, very important, because it's not something of a purely management decision that management would just say that fire those 200 people and we are done with it. The HR would have to give a feedback that why firing 200 people or not firing those 200 people is justified. If we fire those 200 people and 6 months later we suddenly see that the demand has come back, it may not be easy for us to find those 200 people. and do that thing. We need their experience, we need their talent, and more than that, we need their immediate performance at that point of time. That would be missed. At the same time, there can be other issues also, right? That would affect the loyalty of the remaining people also. We fire those 200 people who have been working for us for some time, right? And they are being fired. The remaining people, the survivors in that situation, they might start thinking that what would happen to our job, right? So they would start underperforming. So whatever sales, whatever quality we were still having, there is a huge risk that that will also go down. So those are the things that from the HR point of view, the management has to consider, because there was a time when, you know, management can get away or could not get away with anything. But now everything is highlighted, right? Employee management, employee emotions, their engagement level, everything is heightened. And with so much of coverage across the globe, you cannot get away with anything or everything. So that affects the reputation of the business also, their reputation of their products also, and in so many ways that you cannot even imagine. So suddenly, strategic human resource management now has become a very important part of the entire strategy making. And whatever decisions you make, small or big, human resource strategy has become an integral part in such a way that you cannot just overlook it. And that is why businesses of all kinds are now paying more and more attention to their HR departments. And there have been positions which were never heard of before. Like if you go back to maybe a decade or decade and a half, you will rarely hear that, you know, some organization has a chief human resource officer, a CHRO. But now every bigger organization, you will find some related term, and you will find that, you know, there is one senior HR person which is sitting there in the board, or you know, in a central decision making body, strategic decision making body, and he or she has a very good say in it, right? The person sometimes, you know, put his foot down and say that no, we cannot do that, and people have to listen to him or her. So CHRO has become such an important position. In fact, people are saying that, you know, there would come a time when most of our jobs would be taken in a sense that, you know, technology drives them, and there are standard processes, and people would have certain kind of roles, specialist role only, that they would play. So in that kind of a situation, the role of CHRO would become even more important, because these people, their interest, who is going to safeguard? Not a CEO, right? Not a CFO. We need a person who understands from the people dimension that, okay, these are the things that drives these people in, right? We cannot make every decision based on technology inside the organization, because ultimately, however efficient the process is, the people are supposed to be there, and then only that process would be there, because you cannot drive out all the people outside the organization. So suddenly, strategic human resource management has become very, very important. Okay. So very quickly, without spending much time, from my point of view, from HR point of view, what kind of decision is meant to be called as a strategic decision? There has to be 4 parameters that they have to check. First, it has to be sustainable, means it has to be a long-term kind of a decision. Like in that situation, we were talking about the next year. So based on just one next year, we cannot decide that whether we want to strip down resources from product A and add more resources to product B. We don't know what would be the situation after 1 year, especially ever since pandemic, the things are going up and down like anything. It's more like a pendulum. One day you feel that, you know, I have a huge demand. The second day somebody announces a lockdown, and you suddenly realize that all my raw material is going to get ruined in the warehouse itself, because I cannot produce anything out of it. So one thing is that whatever decision you are taking, it can only be considered as a strategic decision when it is sustainable. In a long run, we can see that, okay, we can do something with that decision. Also, it should add some substantial values, more than just more than what it adds to a competitor. So if we are hiring 400 people to do that job, and our competitors are hiring 600 people to do the same job with the same kind of production for the same kind of output, clearly we are having an advantage, right? But just the opposite of it can also be true. We are having 400 people, our competitors are hiring 300 people, right? And same level of production or something like this. But we know that, you know, our demand is increasing like anything. So in 6 months, we will be able to justify that thing, and our 400 people will be fully utilized. But our competitors, when they would realize that the demand in the industry is increasing, they would have to hire 100 people, and not just hiring is the only thing that they have to do. After hiring, they would spend few months in training them to get the maximum performance out of them. So they are going to lose on that opportunity cost there. So that also can be justifiable. So there has to be some substantial value that we are adding. it has to be comprehensive, so it cannot be like, we are making a decision which is important for certain departments, or it is important for a particular product. When we talk about a strategic decision, it has to be equally important to the entire organization. It should cover the entire organization, and it just by having a good strategy, saying that okay, this is what we are going to do, this is what we are going to, we are going to pay our employees, these are the kind of benefits we are extend to our employees, that looks all good. It seems like yes, we are doing better than our competitors, but unless we have some crystal clear steps that what we are going to do and how we are going to do that, it cannot be termed as a strategic decision. So if I say that I'm going to hire for that case state that we pick today, I'm going to hire a particular HR manager for every branch, then how I am going to do that, how I'm going to justify that, how I'm going to take out the salary for him. So the more details I have, the more actions that I am going to take to make that happen. It has to be there on the paper, it has to be there, it has to be clear to everyone who is involved in the process. Then only they all will be convinced that okay, yes, this looks like a strategic move, this is how we are going to justify the salary, this is how it is going to help us, this is the amount of work the person is going to do. So the more clarity we have on this, the more actions we can take based on that, the more strategic the decision would seem. Most of the problems with strategic management in general, not just strategic human resource management, is that we have got so many good things on paper, but nobody actually take action on it because it seems like they don't have enough clarity on how to do with that. So we say that we will have this much of market share by launching 3 new products, but how do we know that these 3 products would be successful and that will increase the market share, right? There has to be specific action that we will make these products because we have considered these technologies, we have considered these kind of input from customers, and only when these inputs have come, only when these technologies have been verified in the market, then we are going to launch it, and we are going to launch it in that manner in these phases, and this is how we are hoping that our market share will increase. So the more details, the more things, the more actions we can take based on that thing, then only the decision would be considered as strategy. Any questions so far? Shall I move ahead? Okay, quickly moving out. So strategic human resource management, this is just a definition. We are basically formulating and executing certain human resource policies and practices to achieve the strategic aims of the company. That's the basic definition, not getting into detail. Small comparisons, 2 companies making the same product, watches, but for different customers and obviously utilizing a different craft. Rolex makes each one of their watches handmade, right? So they are very expensive watches. We know that every watch is a handmade watch. It would take considerable time to make that watch, right? There are small things that they pay attention to. Timex, on the other hand, is probably one of the highest selling watches across the globe. It is mass produced, not that expensive when we compare it with to the Rolex, right? And they follow the standard process, right? So just if we compare that, few HR decisions for them, hiring for which of the 2 would be difficult? Obviously Rolex, right? Because we need such craftsmen who can actually handmade watches. How many of us actually know that how to make a watch through our hands, right? Without using machines, without using any modern technology. It requires precision. It requires a very careful process to be followed. Then only we can do that. So finding these people would be very difficult. In fact, it's almost next to impossible. Who would write on his CV that I know how to make watch from scratch? Nobody does, right? So we will have to hire people with such aptitude, such skills that we see in them, and that we have to train them, right? Timex, probably the training would take probably not more than few days, right? We'll show them the process. We will tell them that what they have to take into consideration, what are the things they have to make sure that that the quality and everything is not compromised, and then it is done. They are overlooking those. Rolex would require careful overlooking of such activities. There would be one person who is a trainer, mentor, who will closely watch how you are making your first watch, what are the mistakes you are making. He will give you inputs. Probably this entire exercise would take months, right? Similarly, how do you measure the performance? So Timex, everything is automated. So we are measuring performance on some other parameters. In Rolex, we probably are looking at finish. We are looking at the precision. We are looking at so many other things, right? So different parameters, right? How do we reward? So obviously, once you are training a person in Rolex, you don't want that person to go after a few months, right? Timex, probably you would not mind much. You would be unhappy with the higher attrition rate. But if few people are leaving, you would not lose your sleep on it. But Rolex, probably yes, because it's not just the hiring the next person, it's that once you hire it, still you are doing a lot of work with him or her for months. So it's going to be even much more costlier to you, right? So how do you to make sure that you are rewarding that person in a right manner so that the person doesn't leave? And it's a two-way decision, because the person who is good in making watches, it's not that he's going to find that similar kind of a job everywhere. There are very few companies which would hire them. So you want to reward them, but you do not want to overcompensate them also, because then they would become comfortable and this and that, and your profit margin is going down. So this and there's an attrition. So the same product, two different companies, two different approaches. They could have the standard process, but no, they have a very different process from each other. And that is how strategic human resource management can vary for a company. And this was a very simple example. It can go very complicated. So the first step is knowing where your organization is. If you remember, in one of the courses, we studied about product life cycle. The similar to that is the organizational life cycle. This is where we are seeing. So an organization can have multiple products. Some of them are growing like anything. Some of them are on a decline. Some of them are just introduced. Some of them are slowly moving into maturity, right? So together we see that where the organization lies. So company like Google or Apple, they are still in the growing phase. However, some of their products are already become obsolete, but there are so many new products also which have come. So together, if we look at it, average it out, we will still see that those companies are in the growth stage. There can be few companies which are still innovating, who are coming up with their products, but most of their products are not really doing well. And their key product, however, earning really good, has stopped growing in that sense that they are not adding new customers. So they are already into maturity stage. So if we look from that point of view, every organization falls into one of these four stages, and accordingly, the HR focus also keep on shifting. Like in the introduction, the stage, HR focus would be more on staffing. We need more creative people. We need more talented people. We need people who can deal with all these uncertain circumstances, right? Where suddenly there is a new opportunity. We need people who are flexible enough to grab those opportunities, right? So we need those kind of things. We need new leaders who can take owners, who can own those processes and make quick decisions, so that we grow further in the further in the industry and things like that. So focus is more on staffing, then growth may staffing as well as trainings, because now we have to upscale. So we have to do the processes really quick. We are more or less settled on certain things, that okay, this is what we are going to produce because this is working, this is not working. So we have to scale that. So for that we need more skilled people. So we are hiring in high numbers, but as well as we are training them so that that thing is maintained. So there is a clear direction that we need, and in that direction we need a skilled workforce to support it. Then when we move into maturity stage, we are more like maintaining the status quo, right? So how do we do that? We compensate people well, right? We do some HR planning that this much people leave the organization on an average every year. So this much of recruitment we have to do, right? This is the kind of talent we are looking for, right? So more or less our activities have more or less settled. So we are also trying to maintain that status quo. Then change management, outplacement, these kind of things happen in the decline phase. Right, okay, so we have to change. We need people who can help us in these turmoil times. We probably have to strip down certain resources also. How to do that in a phase-wise manner? We don't want to shock the organization by firing a lot of people all of a sudden. So we'll do it in a phase-wise manner. We will give them time to reskill themselves. We will give them time to shift to other processes if required. And if that doesn't happen, slowly we will let few people go. So outplacement activity we will do. We will let them get placed in some other companies, or we will help them seek out some alternate careers, things like that. So that is there, and some kind of resistance would be there when we are making changes in the organization. So how to prepare our workforce for this change? So those kind of things happen. So our focus on what we are doing as an HR or people in general in the organization also changes from time to time. And when we look at strategies, probably you have heard it in your strategic management course. If not, there are three levels of organizational strategies that we see. The corporate level, right, which is true for the entire organization. Then there can be competitive strategy, which is based on strategic business units. It can be based on certain products. It can be based on certain regions. It can be based on certain markets, things like that. And then there is the bottom is the functional strategies, which is for particular functions like marketing, finance, manufacturing, operations, human resources. So HR is one of those strategies which was supposed to be one of the functional strategies at point of time, but now it is more both functional as well as corporate strategy, because it has become strategic human resource management. So quickly, without spending a lot of time, I quickly walk you through give you a hint that what HR people are doing in these different level of strategies, where is the focus, what kind of things they are trying to do, and then probably we can have a small discussion on how to take it forward. So corporate strategy, there are three types of strategy: growth, stability, and renewal strategy, right? So corporate strategy is taken directly from the organizational life cycle, right? So either we are growth, maturity, or on the decline phase, right? So growth strategy, when organization is trying to expand the number of markets or products through their current business or through their any new business that they picked up, right? So four type of growth strategies are there: concentration, vertical integration, horizontal integration, diversification. I'm not going to get into what these strategies are, what are the attributes of this strategy that you are going to have in this trimester itself. But let me share with you that what HR people or HR managers do when the corporate strategy is the growth strategy, when we are into that growth mode, right? So like I've also discussed during the organization life cycle, so the major challenge that HR people are facing, or the top management is facing, is that organization is not having the right amount of talent in them, right? So we have to attract the right kind of talent as well as train them in large number, right? Because it's not that we are hiring 10 people and slowly we are training them. It's like that we are hiring 100, 200, 300 people, and they are joining the organization one after another, and we have to continuously train them and getting them ready to as soon as they can start delivering them, right? And sometimes growth would be very rapid, and sometimes the growth may not be rapid for some time. So we have to create a balance in them, right? And sometimes the challenge is also like that, like in case of startups, sometimes what happens with the startups is that for the first 10 years they are not growing much, right? So there are some 10, 15, 20, or maybe 50 employees who are working there for 10 years. Slowly that thing is moving, and after suddenly few rounds of funding, the business is booming like anything, or maybe the timing now is absolutely right, and suddenly the market is ready for it. And now suddenly from 50 employees to 500 employees, we have done this exercise in few months. So now there is a lot of issues, like those 50 people, they think that we have given 10 years of our life to it, and now the remaining 450 people who have just joined, they are dictating terms, they are making strategies, they are delivering presentations, they are meeting the client directly, and some of them are having better compensation than we had in last 10 years. So there is a lot of friction in between this, but we need both the workforce, right? Because we are scaling up, we have to create a balance. So HR people are trying to create that balance between the two workforce, that cohesiveness. They are looking into it, they are trying to integrate the thing, or we are into a particular kind of business for last many years, and suddenly we are diversifying into a new business. So there is a core team which will always remain there at the middle level management and the top level management, and then and the lower level management and the other workforce that we see, contractual or otherwise, that is completely new, or that is new folks. So how do we create a balance between them? Because there is some organizational culture which has been there for years, and this new workforce has come and that seeks some new kind of a culture. So how to create a balance between them, right? Like someone, just imagine 45 years old, 50 years old, into senior management, running an institution for so long, believes in strong discipline, things like that, working early in the morning, right at 10, and then going on till 6 in the evening. And then suddenly they are starting a new business or something like this, where all these millennials, you guys have just joined, right? And you believe that why to work for 9 hours when we can done with that particular job in 4 hours and done that really good, right? So why to stay till late in the evening and do that? Suddenly there is a friction. Everyone is right. You are right in your own space, and he is right because he or she has been doing it for last so many years and it has worked for them. But the times have changed, right? The culture has changed. The work culture has to be a little bit more inclusive in that sense, right? So there, these kind of things, this kind of friction is always there, and it hampers the growth like anything. If there would be a lot of clashes every day, focus would shift from innovation and all those things to these things, and some competitor would just grab the share in between because we were becoming reluctant. A lot of companies, Indian companies, struggle with that way because suddenly MNCs have come after 2004 and 5 like in big numbers, and they have their own specific culture, and all the best people of that particular industry now want to join them, not just because it is the salary part which is attractive, but because they feel that there the work culture is much better. They have more freedom, they can actually enjoy their work, they have more autonomy in making their own decisions, which is being lacked in this traditional Indian organization. Not that they don't have talent or ideas or things like that, but they don't have talented people because talented people want to go and join those other organizations about which they have heard that much better culture and things like that. So that is what they probably want to deal with in the growth strategy. Then moving from growth strategy to stability strategy, these are those organizations where nothing very happening is going on, right? They are doing good, they are earning good profits, right? They have a good market share, they have everything working fine for them, right? But it's not like that they are having a rapid growth. Like good example is Boeing and Airbus. So they know that they kind of enjoy duopoly. There are other players, but more or less when we look at serious business currently, we can say that, safe to say that they are having a duopoly as far as commercial airlines are concerned, right? Nothing much is happening, but at the same time they have their major status attention from the HR point of view is that how to maintain that stability, right? Because we cannot give extravagant benefits to our people. We have already given that. Now we are not earning extraordinary profits that because of that we will keep on doing that. Or even if we do, we are earning extraordinary profits, it's not consistent. So for 2 years 3 years maybe we will earn good profits, then after that there can come a lean period also. It also, it's not like we are so technologically developed that every time we are shifting to a new business. That's also not possible, and plus it is very much capital intensive, right? So a lot goes into research as well. So major attention is to retain the key employees without giving them too much of motivation to do that, right? Of course, it is a two-way street. So those people also do not have much option. From Boeing, they can go to Airbus. From Airbus, they can go to maybe another upcoming organization. But it's not like that they have got too much option. But there is a substitute, because in these companies, if you are settled for 10 years, 15 years, you earn a lot of money. Plus you earn a lot of experience. Plus you earn a mindset because you have seen a lot of ups and downs. So you are mentally prepared to see all those ups and downs. So you will see a lot of people from these organizations, they move out not because they want to join a competitor, but because they want to do something on their own. They would run a business, right? They would start their consultancy, things like that. So your competition is with those kind of things rather than your competitors. So attention is on retaining employees without actually promising a lot of extravagant opportunities to them. So that is the kind of focus in stability strategy. Renewal strategy, as you can understand that it is a declining stage that we are talking about. So we have to manage the process of downsizing, right? Where the employees who are leaving as well as people who are left behind, the survivors in this organization, they also keep on continue to feel attached or committed, right? Because if their commitment goes down, you will be in a even bigger problem, right? So your production will be go down further, and maybe the quality goes down, and these people are not paying attention. So how do you manage the downsizing? How do you make sure that whatever downsizing we have to do, we will do that, but we will do it in a respectable manner so that people who are living there understand that why they are still here, why they are so important, and why the organization has to do that. It's not that it was because of whims that we don't want so many employees, we will just fire them. No, there was a reason why they had to do it, and that's why they do it, right? And also HR must focus on taking care of the transition for process for displaced workers. I don't know if I don't remember if I discussed this example or not, but Nokia managed it really well when Microsoft purchased the rights to manufacture Nokia phones sometime in 2007 and 8. But Nokia did it really well. There were few employees who were supposed to be downsized, and they were still with Nokia for almost 1.5 years, because Nokia were reskilling them and were helping them absorbed by the other industry players at that time. Right? So they did it really well. They take it as an responsibility that this transition process should be smooth, and people who are deserving, they should get some kind of a stability once they leave the Nokia. So they did all those kind of things. They did reskilling. They helped them with the placement in other companies. They help them sometimes with small loans also, so that if they, some of them want to do something on their own, small loans, if the idea is good, and all those things were also provided without any commitment that they have to give it back to Nokia or something like this. So they have done all those things also. Not that every organization is in position of doing it, but I'm just telling you that there is a way where you can make the transition process more smooth for your displaced workers. If not immediately, at least after some time when things are under control, you can allow them to join back also if it was because of some reason that was beyond their and yours control. Right? So that is the thing. So corporate strategy, these are the major different situations. What are the kind of focus that human resource management has? Competitive or business strategy, like I said, for strategic business units, like maybe based on the products, maybe based on the region, market, things like that. There are two types of strategies that we see. One is the defender strategy and prospector strategy from HR point of view. So when the environment is little less uncertain, little less risky, we try to retain those employees who are more committed and loyal. Okay, like for example of Tata Steel. So it's again like nothing happening is going to be there every year after year. Like maybe once in 10 years, something dramatic would happen, like prices go really up, or maybe raw material is not there, or maybe some new laws have come up which is affecting your profits and things like that. So that would happen once in a while, right? Nothing really big is going to happen year after year, or there is a lot of competition that would suddenly pop up. That is not going to happen. So we follow a kind of a defender strategy. We cannot retain everyone, we cannot retain all kind of employees, but people who we feel are committed, who are loyal, who are contributing to our cause, who are really good employees, we try to retain them. We would have some kind of incentives for them. We would promote them more often than others. We would give them more opportunities to showcase their talent or something like this, or we would give them more comfort than the others. So that's the kind of things that we are defending, the people who mean a lot to us and to whom our organization mean a lot. Right? Then there is a prospector strategy, right? Where it's not that every day something challenging would happen, but yes, we have to be a little bit more proactive because our environment is dynamic. So nothing very challenging would happen in a day, but every 2 years, 3 years, something is happening, right? So we want to basically hire or retain those kind of employees who are a little bit more proactive, more flexible, who have certain skill sets which we may use from time to time in different circumstances. So that is the prospector strategy. So that is something which HUL does, right? So they probably hire those people who have more than one single trait or single skill, and who can be utilized in different circumstances, and who have that set of attitude that come what may, we will try to find a way out of it. So that is more like a prospector strategy. So defender strategy and prospector strategy, these are giving you a hint that these are the basic competitive business level strategy, that these are the things that we focus on. Right? This is just a comparison between defender and prospector based on different aspects that we see from HRM, like recruitment and selection, training and development. So I'm not going to get into detail. You can just read it through. I'll share the slides with you. And if you have any questions, we can take it up in the next session also if you want to discuss something. But I think this one is pretty much straightforward. Right? And the last one is the functional strategy. So like I told you, the HR is also a functional strategy depending upon the organization, where we would have a strategy for our own department. And when we look at a strategic human resource management, we can have some kind of a relationship with every functional strategy also, like for example, marketing and HR. So marketing people are giving us feedback that this is wrong with the product. Product is having this kind of a complaint. There are so many defects. Customers are always complaining. Our sales are high, but so are the complaints. Right? So we can look into that what kind of defects are actually being made quite often in the product, right? Who are the people who might be responsible for it? We can provide them training, we can talk to them, have discussion with them that why it is happening, what are their issues. Maybe their workload is very high, they need additional support. Maybe the number of employees working in that particular division are way less, so we need to hire more people. So there is some kind of understanding between HR and those functions, right? Okay, this is what they need. Maybe, you know, in the finance department, we don't have a CA, and the people earlier the business was small, what on a lower side, so we were able to manage, but now it is becoming really challenging. There are a lot of issues which are coming up, you know, a lot of you know issues related to taxes and all which comes up, and we have to deal with it, and the current workforce in the finance is not able to do that. We requires a CA. So whether it should be a full-time CA, whether we should hire a consultant, whether it is a one-time thing that we should do. So all those kind of decisions HR can take in terms of after talking to the finance team. So this is something which will not bother the top level management all the time. This would not bother the corporate level strategy all the time, but these are those things which hamper the day-to-day processes, right? In a small way, it can keep on adding, and when we look in totality, in the end it can become a huge issue, if not immediately, maybe in the future. So that's why we want to have this external fit with other functional strategy. But there is also internal fit, right? We are talking about big things like having a HR strategy for the entire organization. This is what we are going to do, this is how we are going to retain the people. But there has to be an internal fit also, like, because HR department is also made of people, right? The same issues are happening with them. Those people are not proactive, those people are not competent, those people do not see themselves good fit into this organization and things like that. So there also we have to find some kind of an alignment, that as an HR department, this is what we stand for, this is how much we are going to contribute to the organization, this is how much role we are going to play as far as the strategy of the organization is concerned. And we have to do, like in case of example of performance management. So performance management is like, if we are just being an HR person, we are just doing what a HR person department supposed to do. We will have some standardized skills, we will give it to our employees, they will fill it up, we will verify it with their supervisor, and that is that, right? But if we are a strategic human resource management, we will design those performance management technique in such a way that, you know, whatever the core strategy of the organization is, that also fits. So we want to be in the growth phase for next 10 years also. So we want to have that kind of a workforce which is really innovative and not just doing their work, but they are also thinking about the future. So we have to come up with that kind of a performance management tool. So how good you are in this thing, how better the internal fit is within the HR department, that also plays a very important. Okay, so I'll take a pause here. Any quick questions that if you guys have? I hope this thing is looking interesting to you guys. Strategic human resource management. Yes, no, maybe.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So I'll take a pause here. Okay, these slides I'm going to put on Campus 360 today itself. The next session, I think we have couple of days after. We will take our first case. Okay, so Alabama Tech, TS Tech Alabama. That is the case assigned to two groups. Both the groups, please prepare your presentation. Please come prepared for the discussion on that case. There are a couple of things which are left in strategic HRM that I want to discuss, but I'll probably do it once we discuss that case, or once we discuss. So I'll upload these slides. You probably have the book with you. I hope you have purchased the book. Go through that book also, strategic human resource management part. See that case, read that case, simple situation, try to relate it with that, you know, what kind of stage that organization is, you know, what kind of a strategy they should do, they should follow, HR strategy they should follow as per the things that we have discussed in the class today, and then we will try to find out a solution to that particular situation mentioned in the case. Okay, so I think that case is going to be very interesting, but provided you guys prepare for it, right? So the two groups who have been assigned the case, go through the case carefully. Rest of the class also, please read the case. We want to have a good discussion on that case, and that is only possible when more and more people contribute, right? So good that I hear from you guys, Satyapriya, Aditya, Yogendra, Himanshu, Ankit. So good that these people have contributed today, but I want more people to contribute in these discussions. This will become really interesting class if you guys discuss, right? If you will just listen, then it would become a monologue. I don't want that. Okay, so thank you for joining today. I'll upload the slides today, go through it, and come prepared with the case in the next class. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.